With the NAWCQ coming right up around the corner, there hasn't been a better time to try and pick a deck for a premier event. And it's not even just newbies who are looking for decks to play in general. Even experienced vets need to pick an option out of the many available in this current format. So from experienced vets to Dark Magician's strongest soldiers, here is a slightly above average player's take on picking a deck for a premier event. There's been a constant discussion, of course, when it comes to going to an event. Do we pick Rogue or do we go meta? The top decks obviously have the downside that everyone is targeting them as a point of their deck building, but objectively, they are the best deck card for card with the right pilot. So this discussion truly depends on the format and you, yourself, as a player. So before we dive into talking about a deck type, I want to talk to y'all about some general rules for picking a deck for a premier event.
I want you to keep in mind, this is a no pet deck zone. No, you are not bringing your pure Melfi deck to a YCS.
One of the first rules that doesn't even only apply to Yu-Gi-Oh, but to things in general, is to not split your attention between so many different things at once. Narrow down your search to maybe 2 or 3 decks, specialize, and also just become an expert.
Watch Samir Bakar in the grand finals of YCS London really show how an expert maneuvers his deck. First, he has Nibiru the Primal Being activated upon him by Tom Kleinagraba. But Samir is able to dodge this by activating his Book of Eclipse from the hand and realizing and knowing that Gigantic Sprite will still resolve even when face down, dodging the Nibiru and continuing his turn. It's not just about understanding the basic mechanics of your deck, but the flexibility of your deck. The more options you know you have, the more powerful your deck can be. And this ties into a rule of thumb. If you split your attention, your overall player mechanics will be less than someone who put their full focus onto a single strategy and perfected it for play, even though they might have a worse deck. The second rule is to be a step ahead. Focus on improving the current decks. Don't just copy and paste. Pablo Picasso once said, "Good artists copy, but great artists steal." Take something and make it your own. The more things you can do with your deck, the more time you can catch your opponent off guard and maximize the value of your deck. Don't be the dummy. Don't be the default deck. Change things up a little and be able to throw a good curveball. Be a surprising engine like Super Heavy Samurai and Kashtira, whose ability to make Baron de Fleur with Karakuri cards made this player's deck exceptionally powerful and allowed him to win a regional. The third, and in my opinion most important rule, is to assess yourself as a player. We have to be realistic about our own strengths and weaknesses. Sure, the most complicated decks might be able to win consistently, but how hard are you going to have to work for each and every win? Maybe you need to pivot to a simpler deck that can generate a consistent win condition. Or maybe you're an extremely strong player, familiar with the metagame, but need a deck that can match your own player ability. Understand what your strengths and weaknesses are as a player and apply that to your deck choice. Back in YCS Turin 2013, Samuel Pedigo won a YCS with Karakuri Girgia in one of the very few Tier 0 formats Yu-Gi-Oh! Has had, Dragon Rulers. Words from Samuel himself say that he was short on time with school and work, so he understood that he wouldn't have the mechanics in the very skill-intensive Dragon Rulers mirror match. So he opted to play something that he could make mistakes playing in. Basically, Girgia Stun. So, as everyone prepared for the Dragon Rulers mirror match, Samuel was out there flipping Gozen Match and Imperial Iron Wall on everyone in sight, and he won the freaking tournament. Lastly, one of my own mistakes. Stop coping. It's everyone's dream to play jank and win, to be the mad scientist to do something crazy and change the meta. But take a personal experience from myself. I went to YCS Pasadena with a jank idea. I'm gonna play a Shizu Vernisylph Naturia. That already sounds horrible. With the goal of summoning Amorphage Goliath and Naturia Bamboo Shoot to lock my opponent out of the game, I took this wonderful, cool little theory, this little pet deck strategy, and I took it to a YCS. I went X3 by round number 5 and dropped the tournament. So, what happened? I tested my deck, but I coped.
I blindly assumed that this deck would be viable for some reason, and I didn't even consider other options. Don't over-specialize in something that won't work. Take different options. The reason I played it, it was cool and funny, which is nice for a locals, but when you're taking this to a premier event where people take this extremely seriously, don't expect people to just roll over and laugh at your little stun strategy. So back to where we started. Going rogue or going meta? It's truly a format-dependent thing. In a wide-ranging format, going with a wild rogue strategy doesn't really have any inherent benefits unless it exploits a very specific weakness in the format. The reason being is that when people prepare for a wide-ranging format, they are going to play a wide selection of cards. The reason being is that individuals are preparing for a wide-ranging format and a variety of decks. So decks that are underpowered can lose to generalized non-engine and just other players' engine and the side deck. This is a best 2 out of 3 after all. And take the story of Jacob Banuelos. His first ever YCS attended in YCS Los Angeles, and he piloted Fluanderies to a top 4 finish. Jacob took advantage of a weakness in the format, with Kashtira seeing such high representation in top cut. Once Jacob reached that area with his Fluanderies deck, to which not many people were preparing against, he dominated. So, to wrap this up, I'm not going to tell you exactly what deck is good, what deck you need to play for a YCS. All I'm going to tell you is that it will take studying, it will take practice and work to make yourself at the top tables at a YCS. So, use the resources available to turn your game around and press into top cut. On that note, that's going to be the end of this little educational video essay. Let's get back in the groove for US Nationals in just a week. Peace.